creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty height attain, to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Amen. Welcome back to another episode of Talk and Do with CPDI, a program where we talk Nigeria as it is and do Nigeria as it ought to be. I remain Babajide Michael Olusegun, and with me, as always in the studio, is Francis Tokede. We have been discussing Section 16 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as altered in 2023. This is the second part of the conversation, and to kickstart this conversation, we'll just be going through the remaining subsections of Section 16, especially to assist those of us our viewers who are not really familiar with the Constitution or don't even have a copy of it. So subsection 3 says, a body shall be set up by an act of the National Assembly, which shall have power to review from time to time the ownership and control of business enterprises operating in Nigeria and make recommendations to the President on same, and to administer any law for the regulation of the ownership and control of such enterprises. Subsection 4. For the purposes of subsection 1 of this section, the reference to the major sectors of the economy shall be construed as a reference to such economic activities as may from time to time be declared by a resolution of each House of the National Assembly to be managed and operated exclusively by the government of the Federation, and until a resolution to the contrary is made by the National Assembly, economic activities being operated exclusively by the government of the Federation on the date immediately preceding the day when this section comes into force, whether directly or through the agencies of a statutory or other corporation or company, shall be deemed to be major sectors of the economy. Subparagraph B reads as follows. Economic activities includes activities directly concerned with the production, distribution, and exchange of wealth or of goods and services. And subparagraph C of subsection 4 says, participate includes the rendering of services and supplying of goods. Francis, would you like to read the last part of Section 16?
Section 16A. The state shall direct its policy towards ensuring that A. Strategies that guarantee food security of the nation regarding availability, accessibility, and affordability of food to the citizens are initiated, undertaken, and implemented. B. The means of production, conservation, and distribution of food are upgraded and improved upon on a continuous basis. And C. Adequate measures are provided to ensure that food security of the nation is not compromised by any individual, group, or institution. And subsection 2 of that, the state shall promote and sustain activities that enhance food security.
Thank you very much, Francis. We've heard the Constitution speak to us on the subject matter of economic objective. It is interesting to note that this section that we've been discussing, of which this is the second episode, came into force on the 29th of May, 1999. A part of this section, which is the part you've just read, the 16A, was newly introduced last year in 2023 as an amendment, an upgrade of this section. It deals with food security. We are having this conversation in 2024. Before now, there were efforts made by the government the federal government to ensure that the economic well-being of Nigeria is something to write home about. So we had policies like Vision 2020.
Yes.
Where Nigeria by year 2020 ought to have been one of the top 20 economies of the world. We had the economic recovery and growth policy or plan of the federal government, which was of Nigeria, which ought to have kickstarted in 2017 and to end in 2021 or thereabout. Finally, we are currently operating, in addition to Section 16 that was in force since 1999.
Yes.
We are currently meant to be operating a policy of the federal government that is called the National Development Policy, which was to run between 2021 and to terminate in 2025. And under all of these policies are basically saying one thing. They are unanimous in one thing, that we should not be talking about economic depression in Nigeria. Putting all of this together, is our country Nigeria, are we living our laws, and are we implementing our numerous policies?
First, let me say that these other policies you have mentioned are meant to implement what the Constitution says.
Yes, because they are subsidiary.
Very good.
The Constitution is the most supreme. Yes.
And then those who drafted the Constitution and included this part, this Section 16 and now Section 16A.
Yes.
They thought well, and we can say they mean well for Nigeria and for Nigerians. As we have said before, the prosperity of Nigeria is directly equal to the prosperity of Nigerians. If Nigerians prosper, Nigeria will prosper. Clearly. Good. So, and these are talking about the prosperity of the people, basically, with all those plans. Now, one problem that I personally think we have is that of implementation, starting from our Constitution. It's unfortunate that even at the highest level in this country, the Constitution is really being flouted. Because the Constitution says there should be unemployment benefit.
Benefits, of course.
That does not exist. That is flouting the Constitution. Who is supposed to do that?
The states. The Constitution answers that question. The states. And the state comprises the federal, the states,
and the local governments, which they are not doing. So, we can say that in a way, the governments we have are flouting the Constitution, which is a problem. And it is the same thing with the other policies that have come up. We come up with very fantastic policies, but to implement them is a problem.
In fact, someone once said that Nigeria is beautiful on paper.
Very, very actually. Nigeria is very beautiful on paper because when you think of the potentials we have, they are enormous. And of course, the potentials they are on paper and they are in the mind. Well, how do we bring these into reality? There have been lots of policy documents that have been created that are fantastic. If these policy documents are followed and properly implemented, honestly, we will not be where we are. We will not sit here and be discussing this particular thing if these policy documents have been well implemented. So the conclusion I have come to is our problem is more human than structural.
Okay.
Our problem is mostly a human problem, human beings, rather than structure or lack of structure. Yeah, because we have government agencies that are saddled with responsibilities that are spelled out in this Constitution. The Constitution has established a lot of government agencies, and they exist.
And empowered the establishment of more. Has enabled the establishment of more as the need arises.
Very good. So all of these are there, the documents are there, the frameworks are there.
The plans are there.
The plans are there. The roadmap is there. Vision 2020, very beautiful, even though so many people did not believe in it when it came out. And well, with hindsight, we can say rightly so, because it never came to fruition anyway.
Let me play devil's advocate on behalf of the federal government. So one of the reasons that were given for why Vision 2020 failed, which was something the National Development Policy of 2021 that was to run between 2021 and 2025 acknowledged, was that there were external global shocks.
There
Like,
was a
the
global
pandemic,
depression.
there was a global depression, there was the global financial crisis
Yes.
of 2008, 2009, and the price of oil.
Yes, the oil glut, yes,
Yeah,
was also a problem, yes.
So these were the reasons that were adduced by the
Yes.
federal government. So these realities are there. They say man proposes,
God disposes.
God disposes.
The realities
That's what
are
is playing
there.
out in Nigeria.
The realities are there and we cannot deny them. However,
Yes.
I have a saying,
Okay.
if you are looking for excuses, you will find them. Simple.
If you are looking
For excuses, you will always find them. That's it. So, okay, Vision 2020 was there, should be done. We could not achieve it. Since then, what has happened?
Since then, recently we heard that between 2022 and 2024, over 3.1 million Nigerians have fled.
I love the word fled.
They fled Nigeria, either looking for greener pastures in Nigeria. Whereas the National Development Policy of Nigeria that is to end next year said that between 2021 and 2025, 21 million jobs, stable jobs, should have been created. 35 million Nigerians should have been lifted out of poverty, such that in 10 years, 100 million Nigerians are out of poverty. And I know, as a matter of fact, that I stopped schooling in 2021, and there were no government jobs available for me to get between 2021 and now.
It's the reality. It's the reality. So the thing is, yes, a very fantastic plan has been created,
Yes.
and figures have been given.
Yes, figures, yes.
So what is our reality now? Can we track how many jobs have now been created? How many people have been lifted out of poverty? Recently there was a redefinition
Yes.
of employment
Aha.
that now reduced the level of unemployment in Nigeria. Not because people got employed though,
Okay.
but because there was a redefinition of employment.
Could you speak a little bit about this redefinition of employment?
Yeah, it lowers the bar of what can be referred to as employment. Yes, it lowered the bar, so a lot more people were captured. Of course, there is as employed. Yes, there is employment, actual employment. There is unemployment and there is underemployment. So some people go out actually in the morning and come back in the evening. But they are really not employed, they are underemployed.
While I was a student, I can't count the number of times that someone would approach me as a student to ask me for transport fare to go to work.
To go to work.
To go to work.
You were a student.
I was a student.
You should be ordinarily dependent. But someone who is supposed to be employed, independent, is asking you for money. So can you see the difference?
I was depressed as a student in school. Is this the country? Is this the economy?
The question is, after all of these policies, all these frameworks, roadmaps have been made, what has come out? Where are the jobs? That's the question.
Where are the jobs?
Where are the jobs?
Who will create the jobs?
That's it. And as we said during the previous discussion we had on this section 16,
Yes.
government will not create all the jobs. Of course, government will create some of the jobs because the constitution actually asks the government to create some of the jobs to participate in production.
Because it is in control of the national economy.
Yes. So the government has to create. Aside that, the government has to give room for others to create. So from time to time, our government functionaries, they say they are going to this country, going to that country to look for investors.
Yes.
Why are they looking for investors? So that they can come invest here and make jobs available.
Available, yes.
How many investors have they really brought in?
There's a quick answer to that, because when this day newspaper released these statistics from the Nigeria Immigration Service that 3.1 million Nigerians left Nigeria in 2 years, government quickly said, well, as people are leaving, that they are bringing investors into the country. They said at least 700 persons, foreign investors, are applying for visa to come into Nigeria on a daily basis. And the question I asked myself immediately was that if the people that will do the work, that will provide the labor, are leaving, what the investors are that are coming, who will they recruit to do the work?
It's a bit ridiculous for me to hear, because it would have made sense if government had said, as they are leaving, they are sending in forex.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense. But as they are leaving, they are sending in investors. Is that what government is saying?
Yes.
So if that is the case, then the question comes up: government officials that go all over the world looking for investors, why are they still going to look for investors when we are exporting people that are bringing in investors already? Again, as I said earlier on, if you are looking for excuses, you will find them. They are there, they are bound all over the place. And when you say you are going out and looking for investors, within the past 1 year, how many companies that have always been profitable have declared losses? Nigerian breweries, they declared losses. MTN declared losses. How many companies have left?
These are big, giant companies
that have never declared losses, that have always been profitable. Now they can't balance their books because they are in the red.
Francis, so that we don't overshoot and overflog the point, you've come to the conclusion that our problems are not structural.
They are not structural.
They are human.
Yes.
So that is the problem. Our production here, our engagement here is talk and do. So what do you think we need to be doing now to address this problem, this human problem? What's in your view should we be doing as CPDI, as listeners, as citizens of Nigeria? What should we be doing?
We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to be very, very honest with ourselves, and what will come out of this honesty may not be so palatable to us, but it is something we still need to.
Thankfully, you are a Yoruba man.
Yes.
They say in our culture that if two brothers or family members, they go into the room together and they come out laughing, they have not spoken the truth to one another or to each other. So we are willing to hear.
We need to start talking about the hard truths.
Okay.
Yes. Many people have complained about our constitution, but there are countries that don't even have written constitution, but they are running well. What is it that they have that we do not have? We have to start asking those questions. And we have to ask very, very deliberately, so that we can try to make an adjustment. If you don't like where you are, ask yourself, how did I get here? At what point did I miss my way, so I can go back and retrace my steps? So we need to ask ourselves, these other countries that are working well, and there are examples, how did they work? What did they do? What did their human beings do?
They are human beings, not their laws,
structures,
or their
laws. No. What did their human beings do? Because to even create laws and policies, it takes human beings. Now, after creating
even
laws
the artificial intelligence that they are boasting about needs human beings.
So, what did their human beings do to create the laws and policies that have brought them to where they are? And aside that, what did their human beings do after creating those laws and policies? We need to ask ourselves those questions. And if we are sincere with ourselves, we will find answers.
Okay, when we find answers.
Now, when we find answers, we need to begin to ask, what is it that makes it easy for them to do those things? Because sometimes it is against our natural inclination as humans to be good. Sometimes. Yes. Sometimes it is against our natural human inclination to roll up our sleeves and get to work. sometimes we just want to relax and expect things to be done, which we have done a lot in this country and has brought us to where we are. So we need to ask ourselves, so what are the things that made these people tick? What driving force drove them to do the things that they did?
And then we need to experience what Rwanda experienced.
So the point is, Rwanda has happened.
Yes.
Same thing does not have to happen to any other country, because Rwanda has unfortunately served as an example. Yes. So if it has happened like that, then can we learn from that dark experience and come out?
Did we learn any lesson from the Civil War?
Okay, thank you. I thought you were going to ask about the Rwandan war.
No,
Rwandan genocide. Then I was going to say
we had our own too, where over 3 million Igbos were killed.
Till date, we have not, as far as I'm concerned, conclusively put an end to that. Do we even have any national monument or any day precisely to regret what happened?
To regret.
Because it is regrettable
To regret
what happened during the Civil War. So these are hard questions. These are questions that we have tried to avoid. The Biafran question is one we have tried hard to avoid. It's probably one of the reasons why history was removed from
the curriculum.
Because we are trying to protect the coming generations from knowing these things. But if you don't tell them the truth,
yes,
they will hear the lies.
If you don't tell them the truth,
they will hear the lies. If we don't tell them what happened, what led to what happened, they will hear. If we don't have an official story, which we don't have, if we don't have an official story,
have different people,
different versions of individuals. Obasanjo wrote his own, General Isama wrote his own, different people wrote their own, Achebe wrote his own.
Yeah, and I think Cfrn Ekwesi even wrote a novel titled "Divided We Stand, United We Fall."
Instead of united we stand together, the flip. So people have written different things, but what is the official account?
How do we come to that official account?
We have
because usually the danger of official account is the danger of what 1984 shows us. You know, the Big Brother syndrome of the novel written by George Orwell, where that official account is an account of lies. You doctor the truth.
So the problem is, the longer it takes us, the farther away the truth will go from us. It is taking so long that we cannot really then say which is true, which is not true. And again, it still comes down to the fact that we do not want to talk about the hard questions.
So we just need to keep talking about
the hard questions
until we arrive at a unanimous front.
Nigeria is abundantly blessed. Why is Nigeria not working? Let us not do simplistic thinking. Simplistic thinking will quickly give you answers. This is why Nigeria is not working. There is insecurity, and the Hausas don't like the Igbos. The Yorubas don't like. That's simplistic thinking. Let's take time and think really about it. Why is Nigeria not working with all these things we have? When we get answers, and as I said earlier, if we are sincere, we will get answers.
If we are sincere,
we will get answers. The answers are not palatable. They are not going to be palatable. But if we are sincere, we will get answers. And of course, what can we do again? Education. I'm not talking about literacy. I'm not talking about primary school, secondary school, university education. I'm talking about actual wholesome education.
Because this lack of education featured prominently in the answers we got from the Nigerians that we interviewed.
People are not educated. People do not know. And lack of knowledge, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge is what will make a people remain where they are. So I read a report, I don't know how true, but it may not be so far from the truth. Two giant companies, their entire capital base and their entire worth, so to say, is less than what is used to subsidize Hajj.
Used to subsidize Hajj.
Now, those who are going on Hajj, do they know the benefits that may come from using that subsidy to do something better? Mind you, by the way, we are subsidizing Hajj, but we cannot subsidize electricity, we cannot subsidize education, we cannot subsidize
petrol, that's
energy that will
energy.
power our economy.
Economy.
We can't subsidize those. We are subsidizing something that is boosting tourism of Saudi Arabia. And when it is time for Christian pilgrimage, they will do the same. Subsidize what will boost the tourism of Israel.
Whereas Section 10 of our Constitution says that Nigeria shall not adopt any religion as a state religion.
On education, just to add very quickly,
Yes.
the National Orientation Agency has a lot to do. And honestly, they are too silent. They are too silent for an organization that should be like the image makers of the country. They are way too silent. I sat down and thought about the past electioneering, the campaign period and the rest of them. Personally, I don't know about other people. Personally, I did not see one thing like this from the National Orientation Agency. How people should vote, how they should conduct themselves, on how to eschew politics of bitterness, and all of there is a lot to talk about. But I personally, I did not see one thing. I don't know if others saw.
I did not see any either.
From the National Orientation Agency, that is disastrous. Because we have young people coming up. And this National Orientation Agency is supposed to mold the mindset of Nigerians. These are the hard things we need to talk about. Why is National Orientation Agency not working? Why?
They said they don't have money.
Why don't they have money? Why don't they have money?
Because there's no money.
How come there is no money? No, there are some things that are very, very critical. We spend a lot of money running government. Government is not supposed to just be, even the monarchy in England, the royal family.
Yes.
They take a lot of money. They spend, how do I put it now? A lot of money is spent on them, but they generate money. The royal family generates a lot of money.
Generates revenue.
Yes. The amount of money the royal family generates from tourism alone, it is immense. So they generate money. Yes, the country spends on the royal family, but the fact that they are there is a big source of revenue to the state. Now we have a government that runs using a lot of money. But what does the government generate? So we say there is no money, but we are using the money to run the government now. When the budget comes out, you will hear things like renovation, buy furniture, buy all of these things.
Pay salaries.
And you will hear one government official has 30 special advisors, 64 senior special assistants.
We are basically funding, we have money for politics.
But we don't have money for governance.
For governance.
So these are the hard questions we need to ask. And when I say we, I don't mean the masses alone or those in government alone. Everybody, we need to ask individually, collectively, wherever we meet. Newspaper stands where people argue a lot. Let us ask ourselves these hard questions. That is the way to begin to change our mindset. Because without a changed mindset, we will continue to bring all the policies in the world. Shall we say our constitution is faulty?
Yes. Yeah.
Merge the British, German, American, all of them, all the G8 countries. Merge their constitutions. It's more from the US. And at the end of the day, the US is working, our country is not working. Why? It is a human problem, and until we change our mindset, until I change my own, until you change your own, by asking the hard questions, we will remain here. And I believe we want to move forward. So if we want to move forward, we need to ask the hard questions. When I leave here on the way to my house, I will still ask myself those hard questions because they need to be answered. I mean, posterity will not forgive me if I do not ask myself the hard questions and find answers to them.
We need to ask the hard questions, we need to find answers to the hard questions, and we need to be educated enough to implement and to deal with the answers that we get from the hard questions. These are the closing words we will be using to end this conversation. We are grateful to Francis Tokede for agreeing to feature on the Talk and Do with CPDI show. Remember that you can always follow the conversations and the actions on the social media handles that are showing on your devices. Nigeria can be great, Nigeria can be better, but we need human beings, as Francis has said. We need human beings in Nigeria. We need Nigerians to ask the hard questions, to have the fear of God, to familiarize themselves and educate themselves with the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy as contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to also know and respect the rights and responsibilities of every Nigerian. Until we come your way again, thank you for staying tuned, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.